You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I believe that Syracuse, this is optimistic, has upgraded its roster from a year ago. Granted, the roster last season, for one reason or another, was not very good. They won 13 regular season games. They won a game in the ACC tournament, and that was that. I think Nate George from Georgia Tech is an outstanding pickup. He's going to be a really good point guard for Syracuse, and he's also a minutes eater. This is someone that's going to play 35 minutes a game for Syracuse next year. I really like Nate Kingz from Oregon State. Shot 45% from three-point land last season. Why do I like him? He can shoot. And also Syracuse made some minor portal additions, getting a couple of centers. UCLA's William Kyle and Georgia Tech's Ibrahim Soare. And with all that being said, Syracuse still has 5 open scholarships remaining. Are they going to fill all 5? Probably not, but they do have that roster flexibility at this point in the offseason. I believe Syracuse basketball's number one need right now in the transfer portal are players that can defend. That's right. Comment your thoughts in the comment section below. They need to find players in the portal that have shown they can defend at a really high level. Syracuse was among the worst teams in the power conferences in defense last year. They let up nearly 78 points per game. That was second worst in the ACC, only ahead of the crappy Miami Hurricanes, who, I don't know, they only beat Syracuse last season. And in 2024, a roster that included Malik Brown and Quadir Copeland, 2 excellent defenders, Syracuse still had a defense that was bottom 3 in the ACC, allowing nearly 76 points per game. Let's take a look at the starting unit for Syracuse basketball right now. At this very moment, it could change. Players can go in and out, but on opening night, I think it's fair to assume that these 4 players are going to be in Syracuse's starting lineup. 4, because we don't really know what they're going to do at center yet. Right now, it's projected to be UCLA's William Kyle, but we'll see if that ends up being the case. You got Naithan George at your point guard. You got J.J. Starling as your 2 guard. Nate Kingz is going to be your small forward from Oregon State. And Donnie Freeman. That's a really good scoring unit. All 4 of those players can score. Naithan George can put them in better spots because he is one of the best passers in the ACC. I mean, he led the conference last year in assists per game at 6.5. But it does lack defense, and it's part of the reason why when they got Nate Kingz, I said, hey, I think Nate Kingz off the bench as a 6th man would be excellent for Syracuse basketball. It's also part of the reason why I believe that Sadiq White in the starting lineup makes a lot of sense. For those that don't know Sadiq White, he is a top 30-ish high school recruit in the country coming over to Syracuse next season, and he is known as being one of the best defenders in high school. And oh, by the way, he's 6'8". For those that say, oh, but Jackson, if you put Sadiq White in the starting lineup, that's too small of a lineup. Well, the alternative is William Kyle, who's 6'9". So regardless, it seems like Syracuse is embracing small ball here. I think regardless, Syracuse is going to need guys that can defend. Sadiq White, if he's coming off the bench, maybe he could do that for Syracuse. The stats, especially the blocks per game and the block rate, will tell you that William Kyle is a really good defender. But for one reason or another, I just want to point it out. It's not to hate on William Kyle, but it's just so that we can be objective about the William Kyle edition. The Evan Maya tool hates him on defense for some reason. They really don't like him. And we'll find out who's right this upcoming season. I'm not saying that William Kyle can't prove the tool wrong or, dare I say, really improve on defense next year. But he is not your analytical darling, if that makes sense for you all. Again, not being a hater, but I'm trying to be objective here, giving you both sides of the story. Then you got Kyan Anthony and Luke Fennell. Are any of those guys, or are those guys good defenders out of high school or pro league Luke Fennell in that case? I'm not so certain. And Aaron Womack is a wing player but he's a developmental guy. I don't expect him to see the floor a whole lot next season. And the bottom line is, when you look at the roster top to bottom right now, the 10 players, who's actually a good defender or known as being a good defender? Maybe William Kyle, maybe Ibrahim Soare. That's about it. And to cap it all off, we have to talk about the coaching. Syracuse did not make a coaching change this offseason. Adrian Autry is dead in year 3. But this coaching staff, in 2 years so far at Syracuse, has not shown that they can get the most out of their players, particularly on the defensive end. So I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt this upcoming season. You need to find players in the transfer portal that have actually proven they can defend at a high level. Now, if Kelvin Sampson over at Houston was the head coach of Syracuse, or Tony Bennett came out of retirement, he was the head coach at Virginia, or insert defensive-minded head coach was the head coach at Syracuse, I would say, you know what? That guy always seems to have good defenses, so I don't really care what the analytics will tell you, what he did, what some player did at another school. Doesn't really matter to me, because that guy always has elite defenses. So he can either coach defenses really well, or he knows exactly what he's looking for in his personnel. Adrian Autry and this coaching staff in 2 years have not shown that ability. So to cap everything off, you look at the roster right now, and they can probably score a good bit. They can. Naithan George can score, and he can pass. JJ Starling can certainly score. Donnie Freeman can score. Nate Kingz can score. Ryan Anthony might be able to score a lot off the bench. Do you have players that can really defend at a high level? Not really. And so Syracuse needs to attack the defensive end of the floor for the remainder of the transfer portal.